Hello, you guys. This is Dustin Lindberg, and I am a vision impaired man who lives in Columbia Heights, Minnesota. Today, I want to talk about places where young people who can drive can live. A lot of my topics I talk about where visually impaired people and disabled people who are young can live. Today, I'm talking about the normal non-disabled community. If you don't have a disability, where is it a good place for you to live? Um, Minnesota here, we have rents between $9.50 a month, and that's a low income rent, to $4,000 a month. And this video today, I'm talking about areas that mostly have rents between $9.50 to $1,500, because today I want to talk about places where you just got out of college, you're trying to find your first apartment, or you're just moving out of your parents' place, and you and your girlfriend or you and your boyfriend are looking for your first place to live in and grow your independence. So today, the first city I want to talk about is Robbinsdale. Robbinsdale is a major city between New Hope and Minneapolis. Robbinsdale is kind of squished between Highway 100, that goes right here, and to the west side, and 94, that goes on the east side. So Robbinsdale's kind of like surrounded by a giant wall. You have the Mississippi River and 94 on the east, on the west side, and then you have a Highway 100 on the west side, and then it's surrounded by North Minneapolis. So North Minneapolis goes from this top way up here, magically hits the square of Robbinsdale, magically hits 94 over here along the Mississippi River, and then it goes all the way, North Minneapolis goes all the way to downtown Minneapolis. So, and then North Minneapolis and downtown Minneapolis get divided right here by Highway 55 right here, and the North Loop neighborhood right here. And North Minneapolis does affect Robbinsdale. So whatever kind of happens in North Minneapolis is going to affect Robbinsdale. Robbinsdale has a lot of like apartments anywhere between the $950 and $1,200 range. But a lot of the apartment buildings here are really, really old, and they have a lot of service lot parking. But hey, at least they have parking. Downtown Minneapolis, where I lived in LaSalle Plaza, did not have any parking, and I was paying $9.50 a month. So at least the buildings in Robbinsdale, they're going to have a lot of surface lot parking. They're going to be buildings about 40 to 50 years old, and they're going to be like brick outsides, and they're going to be like older inside, like, you know, the white stoves with the burners on top, like poking out the top. They're going to have, some of them might not have microwaves, so then you have to go to Walmart and buy your own microwave. Some of them might have microwaves, but they're going to be older microwaves. Like really old microwaves, but hey, it's still microwave. They're going to have older appliances, older fridges and stuff. But Robbinsdale, you're only like a half an hour drive to downtown Minneapolis. And the quickest way is to go through North Minneapolis, but to get to downtown Minneapolis. But the issue is when you're driving through North Minneapolis to get to downtown Minneapolis, you're going to see some very iffy neighborhoods, because North Minneapolis is where a lot of the redneck low-income people live, where the apartment buildings do not have parking lots. There's no free parking. Everyone's parking on the street. The neighborhood's crowded. Like when I take the bus to go out to Robbinsdale for my dental appointment, when I used to live in downtown, like when I would take the bus to go out to Robbinsdale, like sometimes the bus could not even get through the roads barely because the people in all the apartments in North Minneapolis had nowhere to park their cars. So everyone kept on parking on the street and the city bus could barely fit through. So if you live in Robbinsdale and you need to go to downtown Minneapolis, you might have to drive through some of those neighborhoods that are crammed and all that stuff and very tight. But if like you live in Robbinsdale, I would advise you not to work and hang out in downtown Minneapolis because you have to go through North Minneapolis. I just advise you to work in Crystal because if you have a car, you can just drive over Highway 100 and then boom, you can be in Crystal in like 15 minutes instead of taking the half an hour drive to get to downtown Minneapolis. And then Robbinsdale, has a lot of older shops because they were like a lot of the strip malls were built before everyone had cars. So a lot of the strip malls in Robbinsdale do have parking, but the parking lots are very, very, very small because the malls were built when everyone walked or biked to the mall and only few people had cars. But every time I went there, like do my dentist appointment in the mornings, you can find parking. It's just in the evenings, like when those small parking lots, I call the Columbia Heights problem, where people are circling forever because there's not enough parking. But when they built these strip malls, they were building them for people to walk to them or bike to them. They did not build them so everyone in the neighborhood can drive a car. So Robbinsdale is going to be cheap. You're going to get some free parking with your apartments. It's going to be surface lots. But things are going to be tight because they built them when so few people had cars. So it's going to be tight, but not tight like North Minneapolis. Like Robbinsdale looks spacious compared to North Minneapolis, but Robbinsdale is still going to be tight compared to Crystal. Now let's talk about Crystal. Crystal's another good city for a lot of young people to move into because Crystal doesn't have good public transportation. So Crystal is one of those cities you have to physically drive around to get around easily. Or bike or Uber. Crystal has like older apartments like Robbinsdale between the 950 and 1,500 mark, but where there's service lot. But at least in Crystal, the apartment buildings have more space. So the apartment buildings in Crystal are going to be bigger and more massive than the apartment buildings in Robbinsdale. But the ones in Crystal are going to have like bigger surface parking lots. So like, because when they built Crystal, more people started having cars. So Crystal's going to have more parking. It's going to have more of your major stores, like the Targets are going to be bigger, the Walmarts are going to be bigger, the stores are going to have more choice because the closer you get to downtown Minneapolis, there's less land for stores to use, and because there's less land, the stores are going to have less choice. So you mean your Targets are going to be bigger, your shopping malls are going to be bigger, your shopping malls are going to have more parking. You mean your rents are still just as cheap as Robbinsdale, but Robbinsdale has busing, so you have cars and you have busing. But when you go out to Crystal, you pretty much just have cars, because Crystal is a second-ring suburb, and a lot of people who have disabilities and stuff stay to the first-ring suburbs or to downtown Minneapolis. So because Crystal's like a second ring suburb. It's it starts to be very car focused, and in Crystal, you have walking paths, you have bike paths. You're on you're not going to get the North Minneapolis problems because the Highway 100 acts like a Great Wall of China. So the people in North Minneapolis are not going to be bothering you. But in Robbinsdale, sometimes people in North Minneapolis will come into Robbinsdale and cause problems, then go back home. Well, in Crystal, you're not going to get those problems because Highway 100 acts like a Great Wall of China. And if these people in North Minneapolis bike, walk, or take buses everywhere, it's going to be if they don't have a car, it's going to be very hard for them to get over Highway 100 to bother you in Crystal. So my brother is looking for an apartment, and this is I told him to go check out Crystal because Crystal has a lot of affordable places that he can afford, and Crystal it's safe, and it has your major stores like Hy-Vee, Cub Foods, um, it, Menards, Home Depot, Target, Walmart, that kind of stuff. Because Crystal, when they built Crystal, they were thinking about that stuff. Like, hey, people want superstores now. People want a store like a Super Target. And then Crystal, when they started building that stuff, they had the space to do it. And then also Crystal has modern apartments in there too. So if you want apartments with underground parking and they have a fitness center and have a swimming pool and a hot tub, Crystal, you can get some very new apartments for cheap. Because Crystal is more of a residential neighborhood. Like, you don't go to Crystal if you want to go shopping every weekend. You don't go to Crystal if you want to eat at high-end restaurants. Crystal is full of mom and pop businesses, like mom and pop pizza places and stuff. Of course they have a Subway. Of course they have a McDonald's. Of course they have a Dairy Queen. Of course they might have some place like a Culver's. You mean? But Crystal also has a lot more mom and pop shops because they have some older strip malls where a lot of the mom and pop shops go. And then they have the newer strip malls where the Targets, the Cubs, and all that go that have a more bigger parking spot. So Crystal, me and my mom used to go to Crystal a lot. We would go for the mom and pop businesses that they didn't have like in Maple Grove. Like, you can drive there and you could go get popcorn at a mom and pop popcorn shop. You can, you can go to a mom and pop thrift store. And then if you wanted to go to a big thrift store, you can drive down the road and go to Goodwill. So so if you want big fancy chains like Ultra Beauty, Best Buy, that kind of stuff, Crystal's not the town for you. Crystal's more of more like Columbia Heights that has a lot of mom and pop businesses and mixed with maybe a few big chains. And it's a very, very nice spot to live in. I almost chose there, but one of the spots I almost chose, but the issue is because I'm visually impaired, they don't have the public transportation I need to get me around. So if I could drive, I would have chose Crystal instead of Columbia Heights, but because Columbia Heights is still nice, it still has everything I need, but Crystal is a more peaceful area. Columbia Heights, we're busy because we have U of M students that live in our town because Columbia Heights is right next to the U of M, and we're cheaper than like living in St. Anthony or Roseville. So a lot of college students live in Columbia Heights, they party, whatever, and they take the 10 bus to school, and then they take the 10 bus back home. And so Columbia Heights, we're more of a college/young people town. While Crystal's more of I want to settle down and have babies. So Crystal is a good spot if you want to live in a nice, quiet neighborhood. Columbia Heights is more because I'm next to the U of M. It's more of a party town, but because it's more of a party town, they have the public transportation I need. But But Crystal's good for someone like my brother, for example, who doesn't like to party, who doesn't like, you know what I mean? He might just want to go and just chill out with his girlfriend and eat pizza, or just chill out with his girlfriend and eat food at the local coffee shop. You know what I mean? It's more of a chill vibe. It's more of a, I want to date my girlfriend, live with my girlfriend, and make babies kind of neighborhood. New Hope is also good area. Let's see what highway this says. I never. Okay, this okay. 169. Okay, yes, I took 169 plenty of times. New Hope is a good area too. No, New Hope. It's even. It's like okay. It's not new like Maple Grove, but it's not old like Crystal or Robbinsdale. New Hope, for example, instead of a lot of the apartments being 40 years old, the apartments there might be 20 years old. So so a lot of the apartments in New Hope are going to have underground parking. They're going to have indoor fitness centers and an outdoor swimming pool. A lot of apartments in New Hope, and they're going to be more towards the $1,200 a month units. And the closer you go to Crystal, you're going to get more of the older apartments where there is outdoor parking and only outdoor parking. And the more closer you get to Crystal, it's going to become more $950-ish a month. So, New Hope has a Hy-Vee, a nice Hy-Vee, a massive Hy-Vee that has a gas station. It has the Starbucks attached to the gas station. It has the Starbucks inside the Hy-Vee. The Hy-Vee has a restaurant attached to it. It has a nice deli attached to it. It's like the full scale. The Hy-Vee in New Hope is just as big as like taking a Sam's Club and half a Walmart and shoving them together. It's a massive like Hy-Vee. They have a massive Cubs that's just as big as like going to a Walmart. They have a Walmart, but it's not. It's just like a smaller Walmart, not like a big Walmart. And New Hope is more of of a I want to settle down and raise my family kind of neighborhood. Just like how Crystal is, and it has a bunch of single family homes. So how a lot of Crystal is, like you'll drive down the main road and there'll be like businesses on the main road, like mom and pop businesses and major businesses, and then behind those businesses there'll be like apartments, and then behind those apartments there's single family homes. And then New Hope, there's a lot of rental homes in New Hope. And there's a lot of old ladies who have extra rooms in their house that will rent out bedrooms of their house that they're not using to young people who are just starting out. So New Hope is a good area and it's nice and peaceful. A lot of the apartments are newer and you can park underground. It's a nice area. It's a very nice area. And a lot of mom and pop businesses and stuff. Plymouth, you're gonna pay almost like $1,200 to $4,000 a month to live there. And the same thing with Maple Grove. So if like you're like an older adult that can afford between $1,500 and $4,000 a month, that's when you want to go between Plymouth and Maple Grove, because that's where a lot of higher end people live. And I would advise young people to stay away from Brooklyn Center, because Brooklyn Center, how am I going to say this? Brooklyn Center needs help. Like, they have plenty of affordable housing there, like housing that I can afford and a lot of people can afford around the $950 range. But the hard part with Brooklyn Center is if you want anything like a Walmart, a Target, a Cub Foods, you have to drive all the way to Brooklyn Park. If you want to do some major shopping or whatever, you have to drive to Brooklyn Park. If you want to do, if you want to donate things to Goodwill, you have to drive to Brooklyn Park. If you want to go shop at a Target, you have to drive to Brooklyn Park. Or if you live in Brooklyn Center, you have to drive all the way to Fridley. You have to drive all the way to Fridley. And you have to drive all the way to Fridley. And if you live in Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, so if you live in Brooklyn Center, I'm sorry to say, it's just easier to go shopping in Brooklyn Park than in Fridley. Because in Fridley, you have to go over the river, and then you have to go, and there's a lot of traffic here. It's just a pain to come shop in Fridley if you live in Brooklyn Center. So if you live in Brooklyn Center, just be realistic that you're gonna have to do all your shopping in Brooklyn Park. So, but at Brooklyn Center, you can find cheap places to live. You can definitely find cheap places to live. But it's nothing really to they have McDonald's, pot pies, fish and chips. They have a bunch of West African snack shops and grocery shops. They have West African delis. They have a lot of mom and pop restaurants and stuff. But to go get your groceries, you have to go away to Brooklyn Park. And that is just a pain. Or you have to go all the way across the Mississippi River into Fridley. And that's also a pain. So if you live, you can afford, a lot of people can afford Brooklyn Center, but just getting groceries and stuff is a pain. Let me show you. So then I'm not being biased. Because I don't want to be biased. So here is the main shopping area in Brooklyn Center. I used to hang out here a lot when I lived in Maple Grove with my mom. So that's why I just oh, here it is. So as a disabled person, I go to Brooklyn Center a lot too, because this is where my Social Security office is. So I go there a lot. So we do have an IHOP. They do have a small Cub Foods, but the Cub Foods in Brooklyn Park is way better. It's you can go to this Cub Foods, but it's really small. And that's really your only major shopping area in town. If you want a major store. But for people who can drive, they probably don't care if they have to drive to Brooklyn Park. But for me, I like to live near food, good bunch of food. But you have Cub Foods here. That's really it. But there's a liquor store, woohoo. There's a Taco Bell, woohoo. There's a shoe store here. This is DTLR is an African American shoe store, and they have it in Brooklyn Park, and they sell. If you have a big foot person like me, it's very comfortable. IHOP has closed, just to let you know. Taco Bell is still open. Walmart is closed. Because people kept on driving from Minneapolis and coming to this Walmart to steal. And over here is the Brooklyn Center Transit Station. This is where I used to come to this place a lot. Not anymore. Since I moved to Columbia Heights, I normally take the bus to Northtown Mall and Blaine, or I take the bus to Rosedale Center Shopping Mall in Roseville, Minnesota to do my shopping, so I barely need to come over here anymore. And some of these things have closed over here. Some of them are still open. But the neighborhood's really trying to bring shops back. If you find something in Brooklyn Center, I'm not going to say don't move there. But if you do move there, just make sure that you move into an area that has underground parking, so no one messes with your car. And or if you have outdoor parking and only outdoor parking, you want to get one of those steering wheel locks. so you can lock your steering wheel so people don't take off your car. Like when I hung out in Brooklyn Center, I never really had to worry about my car being stolen because I'm visually impaired and I take the city bus. But for people who rely on a car that could get stolen, you just have to be aware that, okay, in Brooklyn Center, I can live here for cheap, woohoo, I have to go to Fridley across the river or Brooklyn Park to do my shopping. And my only really grocery store is Cub Foods. But to me, I don't mind like going to the mom pa delis. Like I will go like to me, I will go to mom pa deli, or we'll go to a co-op, or I'll go to those kind of grocery stores, like a small grocery store that might not have everything but still sells food. Like I'm one of those personalities. Like I buy milk from out of a gas station. I'm one of those people, but a lot of people are not like me. They want to go to a real grocery store. And Brooklyn Center, that's really hard to find. Um, it's like here is like a mom and pop like corner store, like Sun's Foods. It's not like a major grocery store, but you can go there and like you can get small amount of things. Um, Walgreens, like I don't know if that's open or closed still. The Brookdale Library, I've been there once or twice. Um, it's it's one of the best libraries I've been to. Um, but but not a lot of young people that are normal in their like 20s. Like I want to go bum out and read and spend time at the library. It's a very nice library. Um, they have like a buffet, New King Buffet. I used to eat there because I used to have my stepdad Ray drive me all the way from Maple Grove to go to this New King Buffet because I really liked it. There's a Dollar Tree, you can go shop like at a Dollar Tree. Um, There's some of see these are kind of the apartments that I was talking about. See how like they're kind of brick and they're kind of have surface lot parking and stuff. So you can easily find parking here in Brooklyn Center, but you mean it's going to but it's you mean if like this is the place that like you can afford, go for Brooklyn Center. It's way safer than like living in North Minneapolis or South Minneapolis. But you're not going to have like the big Walmarts, the Targets, because the Walmart's closed. You just type in on the internet businesses that close in Brooklyn Center, and you'll see Google Maps hasn't really updated their maps lately because a lot of these businesses are probably closed because it's been a year since I've really been out there. So I don't really know what's open or closed anymore. But Brooklyn Center, if like you're willing to drive a little bit to get to the things you want, it's not the worst, not compared to North or South Minneapolis, but you know, you could do better in my opinion, but living in Brooklyn Center is better than living on the street. And living in Brooklyn Center is better than living in North Minneapolis. Living in Brooklyn Center is better than living in South Minneapolis. In Brooklyn Center, as long as you park your car underground and you keep your vulnerables, like your cell phone, your guns, your purses, out of your car, and then if you buy like a steering wheel lock and you lock your steering wheel with the steering wheel lock, you should be fine. Because in Brooklyn Center, there's not a lot of like I'm gonna shoot you crime, like pow bow pow. It's more of I'm gonna take your stuff kind of crime. While in North and South Minneapolis, it's more I'm gonna shoot you and then take your shit. So Brooklyn Center is like it's better than North or South Minneapolis, but try to choose the other options I said first. And then Brooklyn Park is a good place for poor young people to live in because they have modern apartments up to like 2,000 a month, where you have underground parking, you have like surface parking, they have a fitness center that has a swimming pool, and all these, and they have a playground. A lot of the new apartments out there have playgrounds. Um, and then, um, they have a lot of condos for you to buy. So I went out there to look at a condo, but the sucky part, the reason why I didn't get it with my mom is because there was no bus line. But the condo is like a four-story condo, and there's like 100 units on each. So it's not a big building, and I had underground parking, and I had a playground for the kids. So you can buy condos, you can buy townhomes, um, there's apartments, new apartments, like they have a indoor swimming pool, a fitness center, um, and all that stuff. And there's old school apartments that were built like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that there's only like a surface lot and the building's made of brick. So Brooklyn Center has very old, like if you go more towards Brooklyn Center, the more closer to Brooklyn Center you get, the older Brooklyn Park gets. So the cheaper to Brooklyn Center you get, cheaper the rents in Brooklyn Park, because the apartments get older, the apartments have less amenities. There's along the Brooklyn Park Brooklyn Center border, there's a lot of basic apartments like for $950-ish a month, between $950 to $1,200, who just have surface lots. And then like you pay with your laundry, you do your laundry in a laundry room with quarters. But more closer up to Osseo you get, and Champlin you get up here, the newer apartments you get up here, up by Champlin up here, there's like $4,000 a month apartments. But down here, when like you get down to Brooklyn Center, you get like $950 to $1,200 a month apartments. So the more closer you get to Brooklyn Center, the more old Brooklyn Park looks. But Brooklyn Park has a Walmart, they have a Hy-Vee, they have a Cubs, they have two Cubs. There's called Cub Foods North, that's up here, and there's Cub Foods South, that's down here. There's Hy-Vee, like up here. There's a Walmart down here. There's a Fleet Farm down here. There is a KFC, a Pot Pies, multiple coffee shops. More closer to Brooklyn Center you get in Brooklyn Park, you get more mom and pop businesses. And the more closer you get to Champlin, up in the northern part up here, you get more corporate businesses. So be kind of like you read the news and you hear there's a shooting in Brooklyn Park, for example, right? The shooting can happen way down here, and you live way up here. So it'd be kind of if there's a robbing in Brooklyn Park. The robbing example can be way over here by this Walgreens. Yes, Brooklyn Park has multiple Walgreens because that's how big the city is. And you could live way up here. So if you live way up in the northern part of Brooklyn Park, whatever happens in the southern part of Brooklyn Park won't affect you. And whatever happens in this southern part of Brooklyn Park won't affect you in the northern part of Brooklyn Park. Because Brooklyn Park is chopped up by 694 here, and it's chopped up by 610 here. And then, it's chopped up by 169 that goes towards Champlin here. So Brooklyn Park has like 5 sections in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So with Brooklyn Park, it depends on what section you live. See, this Taco Bell is amazing because this Taco Bell because it's right off the highway and all that stuff. And then Brooklyn Park up here has a newer Taco Bell, like the ones that look like a bank and the kitchen's above you, and you can drive underneath it, and the food comes down this like little chute, and it acts like you're ordering like Taco Bell through bank style kind of food thing. Brooklyn Park, if they had better public transportation, I would definitely live here. Um, Brooklyn Park, I didn't choose there. I didn't choose it here, and I chose Columbia Heights because there isn't. I would have to like Uber everywhere or bike everywhere to get around the city. But if you have a car, Brooklyn Park is an amazing spot for young people to live in. And I really like it. And Brooklyn Park competes against Ridley pretty well. It competes against Blaine really well. It competes against Coon Rapids really well when it comes to shopping. If you live in Brooklyn Park, you can like you between the north part of Brooklyn Park here and the southern part of Brooklyn Park, you can find all the stores, the like not high-end stores. You won't find an Ultra Beauty. You won't find like Nordstrom, like a Nordstrom Rack. You won't find like a Nordstrom. You won't find the high-end stores, but you will find like Burlington Coat Factory. You'll find a TJ Maxx. You will find like Goodwill Outlet, a regular Goodwill, the Salvation Army, like any store, any low income person store possible, you will find here in Brooklyn Park. I love Brooklyn Park. Um, Brooklyn Park is a wonderful place for young people to live. Um, and then there's one more city we need to talk about. Um, but this one is in the south side of the metro, and the south side of the metro is a newer part of the Minneapolis metro, so a lot of people there have a lot of money. So in the southern part of the metro, so it's not a good area for a lot of young people to live, and the only area that's affordable for really young people to live is Richfield, and Richfield is where a lot of young minimum wage workers live that run the Mall of America, that run the airport, that in Bloomington, that runs all the stores in the Mall of America, and a lot of the people who live in Richfield, they run all the hotels in Bloomington, and they run all the other tourist attractions in Bloomington, things like the restaurants and stuff. Because Richfield, there is the D bus that goes through there and takes you right to the Mall of America, and there's other buses that'll take you to the airport, to downtown Minneapolis, through South Minneapolis, and all that stuff. And Richfield it's a really good spot for low income people to live. I would advise, all low income, like a lot of low income people, if you don't want to live in the North Metro, to come live here in Richfield. But the issue is when you live in a Richfield, you have to keep yourself in mind that you're going to end up doing a lot of retail jobs in Bloomington. That's what you just have to keep in mind. But if you live in the Northern Metro, you have more job opportunities than like Richfield. And then over here, on my side of the river, I'm still learning the St. Paul side, so that's why I'm just doing Minneapolis Metro. Okay, so right here, so here's downtown Minneapolis. Right here is the university, right here. Right here is like the University of Minnesota. And then right around you here, University of Minnesota, there's like right in here, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apartments just for college students. And that's where Dinkytown is, where a lot of college students live, and all this neighborhood right here is a lot of college students live. And you can get rents in there for like $950 a month to $1,200, and you're not going to get the Minneapolis culture because the Mississippi River kind of splits the Minneapolis culture from the Northeast Minneapolis culture. So technically, on paper, yes, the U of M is technically in Minneapolis, but the feel of Northeast Minneapolis is completely different than downtown Minneapolis is. Because this Mississippi River splits North Minneapolis away from Northeast Minneapolis, and the Mississippi River here splits South Minneapolis from Southeast Minneapolis. So Northeast Minneapolis and Southeast Minneapolis and the U of M campus completely feel different than North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, and downtown Minneapolis. Because the river, the Mississippi River, it's not easy to cross. See how here in Minneapolis there's only 1, 2, 3 bridges to get across? So unless you have a car, getting to these 3 bridges is a pain in the butt. So if you live on the west side of the river, where like the suburbs we're just talking about is, it's hard for you if you don't have a car to get onto the east side of the river. So that's why I say, like, if it was up to me, Northeast Minneapolis, Southeast Minneapolis, and the U of M would all be a part of St. Paul. It was up to me, Northeast Minneapolis, the U of M campus, and Southeast Minneapolis would all join St. Paul. Because St. Paul is like right here. I would just have Northeast, Southeast, and U of M just join St. Paul because it's easier for me as a visually impaired man to get to St. Paul than it is to downtown Minneapolis. And then, so that's good. And then Northeast Minneapolis, that's a good neighborhood too. I love this neighborhood. See how right here is like, see how Northeast Minneapolis lines up with North Minneapolis? But see how North Minneapolis here has no bridges to go into Northeast Minneapolis? So all the criminals and the crazies that live here in North Minneapolis are not going to get into Northeast Minneapolis unless they come all the way into downtown Minneapolis, or unless they come all the way into Brooklyn Center and then come back down and then come down. So if you don't have a car, getting over here is a pain. So a lot of college kids that live at the U of M who can't afford the U of M campus area, they come up here and they live in Northeast because the rents are a little bit cheaper, so they can go to school. And this right here is St. Anthony. St. Anthony's a more higher income neighborhood. So, but I just wanted to point it out. And I go there a lot. This is Roseville. I go here a lot too. Roseville is a mixture of high-end income and low income. So it's like Brooklyn. So it's similar to Brooklyn's Park. The more closer you get to St. Paul over here, the more low income it is. And the more north you get, the more high income it is. And Falcon Heights is a very good neighborhood of St. Paul. And St. Anthony's kind of shoved in between Columbia Heights, Northeast Minneapolis, and Roseville. But St. Anthony's more a higher end neighborhood. We'll find rent between $1,500 and $2,000. But if you can afford that, St. Anthony's a good place. And if you move to Roseville, you want to move to the northern part. And the same thing. They have more between like $1,200 and $2,000. And Fridley is a good spot for you guys to live too, because Fridley, it's not as low income as it is here in Columbia Heights where I live. It's not as high income it is in Blaine. So if you live in southern Fridley, you're going to get a lot of low income people that hang out in Columbia Heights. If you live in more northern Blaine up here by the Northtown Mall, northern Fridley up here by the Northtown Mall, you're going to get more of the higher income people who live in Blaine. So with Fridley, if you come to the northern part, southern part where I live, if in Fridley, if you come to the southern part where I live, you're going to get like $950 to $1,200 a month. And you're going to get surface lot parking, and it's going to be a 40-year-old apartment, and you're going to have to pay for laundry with coins and a little laundry room and all that stuff. But if you go into northern Fridley, like the new part of Fridley that was built like 10 to 20 years ago, you're going to get up more by the Northtown Mall. You're going to get more of the newer apartments with underground parking, with a fitness center, a workout gym, an indoor swimming pool, or an outdoor swimming pool. You're going to get more affordable living. But then if you go to Blaine and Coon Rapids are considered our high-end neighborhoods. So you don't want to go there. In Anoka, it's kind of a mix. If you go more towards Champlin in Anoka, you're going to get more of low-income housing. Because here's like the Anoka Ramsey Community College over here, and Mercy Hospital. And around, and like Anoka is where a lot of the Anoka Ramsey Community College students live. So Anoka, a lot of college students live there, and they drive to Anoka Ramsey Community College. They do their community stuff, and then they go back home. And then so Anoka has a lot of like more low income people because they're college students going to Anoka Ramsey Community College that's on the Anoka and Coon Rapids border. So Anoka is where a lot of where a lot of college students live, and it's going to have a lot of apartments that have surface lots, parking, and all that stuff. And the more closer you get to Coon Rapids, like after you get past Anoka Ramsey Community College, you're going to get more newer apartments, newer apartments, newer apartments, newer apartments, newer apartments, newer apartments, newer apartments. And the closer you get to Mercy's Hospital and / Anoka Ramsey Community College, you're going to get more older apartment buildings because of the college. And Anoka is a different situation than Coon Rapids because Anoka started as a trading town. A long, long time ago, when people first settled Minnesota, Anoka was one of the first colonies that white people built in the state of Minnesota. So Anoka has mansions over 200 years old that are just as old as mansions and stuff in downtown St. Paul. So, and because the buildings are so old and a lot of wealthy people don't want to live in old buildings, a lot of the old mansion owners turn them into student housing. So people going to Anoka Ramsey Community College, they can live in Anoka and they can make money off rents. And then they can go to school at Anoka Ramsey Community College. And then they can go back to Anoka. And then because when Anoka was built, Coon Rapids didn't even have a highway through it. No electricity lines. Coon Rapids wasn't even thought. Coon Rapids was Native American land. So that's why everything in Coon Rapids and Blaine is so new, and everything in Anoka is so old. Because if you would think over here, in Champlin, everything in Champlin's new. How is things in Anoka so old when it's right next to Champlin, so far away from the city? Well, the reason why Anoka is so old is because Anoka was one of the first settling towns. So a lot of the buildings in Anoka are over 300 years old because they were settler buildings. But everything here between in Coon Rapids and Blaine and in northern Fridley is new. And then once I get into southern Fridley, it becomes old again. So, but the buildings in Columbia Heights where I live and southern Fridley are going to be more expensive to rent than the buildings in Anoka, because the buildings in Anoka are even more old than the buildings in Columbia Heights and Fridley, southern Fridley. So renting them is going to be cheaper because they're going to even have less amenities than where I live. So, and then, so then you have Anoka. And then that's where I'm going to leave this tour. because I don't really know a lot of the St. Paul Metro yet. But now that I live over here, I can start exploring the St. Paul Metro, and then I can give you guys some information about on this side of the river. Well, I hope you guys have a good day. Bye bye.